There was a time when anyone who said they had seen a UFO was accused of making it up, being confused or even being drunk. Not anymore. Scientists, military leaders, even some politicians are joining the crowd of true believers, with the US Navy task force called in to find the truth.
The X-Files promised the truth is out there.
What are they?
I don't know.
But the truth has been hard to find.
Oh my gosh! Look at it, it's behind the tree. What is that?
Tens of thousands of sightings.
Look, nothing in the sky at all. Then all of a sudden, bam! What is that?
But never anything conclusive.
The traveler sees that, an object apparently changing shapes in seconds.
What?
The US government claims things are changing.
Unidentified aerial phenomena are a potential national security threat, and they need to be treated that way.
Unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, is the US government's preferred new name for UFOs.
Since the early 2000s, we have seen an increasing number of unauthorized and or unidentified aircraft or objects in military-controlled training areas and training ranges and other designated airspace.
More than 400 reports from military personnel since 2019.
Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing.
Revealed in the first high-level hearing in 50 years to be held in public.
For too long, the stigma associated with UAPs has gotten in the way of good intelligence analysis. Pilots avoided reporting or were laughed at when they did.
The public hearing created a huge buzz among true believers.
It was a very serious conversation, by very serious men and women. I think it is significant. I think it's significant that it happened regardless of the outcome.
This material hasn't really been treated widely in the public domain before, so in that sense the congressional hearings really are significant.
But it failed to live up to the hype.
I think some people went into this with elevated expectations. I think for the people who've been following this issue for a long time, there were no particular surprises.
Still, the US government insists it is taking UAPs seriously because of these.
Look at that thing! It's rotating.
Navy warships and aircraft confronted by UFOs in US airspace above key military installations.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
Ryan Graves is one of those pilots.
We were going out on a relatively large air-to-air training mission. We saw this formation and it was kind of scattered, around. It was a rough diamond and it wasn't very tight. And then they made a turn to the left. Everything about it was strange.
He's left the military and now works in UAP investigation.
I wish I could point at it and say what it is, but you know what? We're trying our darndest, and we have a method, we have a process going, and I think we have the momentum that we're gonna carry this forward, and we're gonna get answers of what these are.
He's over the moon. Top military brass and senior politicians like Marco Rubio.
We don't know who they are. We don't know what it is. It isn't ours.
Are taking the threat seriously.
I think that the interest in Congress and the interest in the Senate, especially after that first hearing, is just going to continue.
Republican Congressman Tim Burchett was at the hearings but left unimpressed.
This issue's been covered up and covered up.
There are three working theories on what these blurry images might be. One, the high-tech military aircraft developed by the Chinese or Russians. Two, the top-secret US military aircraft. And three, the visiting from outer space.
It cannot be the Russians, it cannot be the Chinese. So that means, in fact, that it's either something from outer space or something from outer space that we have found somewhere and are reverse engineering it.
But radio astronomy professor Stephen Tingay has his doubts.
The chances of any aircraft crashing is around about 1,000,000 to 1. So I think it's reasonable to assume that alien spacecraft that have to travel interstellar distances over journeys that take thousands of years might be a bit better designed and a bit more robust than an aircraft. Let's say they're 100 times better. That means in order to get one piece of wreckage, you need 100 million visits to Earth by alien spacecraft, which means over 3,000 visits per day, every day, for the last 100 years.
UFologist Dr. Roger Stankovic is the Australian president of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, which monitors sightings around the world.
Once we do know, it's going to be paradigm shifting.
He'd like more transparency closer to home.
So the Australian government really isn't doing anything at the moment. They're not taking reports from civilians or pilots, and it seems as if they're not interested.
Scientists around the world have been searching for intelligent life forms for 50 years, and have only scraped the surface.
If you think of our galaxy as equivalent to the Earth's oceans, all of that searching that we've done over the last 50 years is equivalent to randomly taking one swimming pool worth of water out of the ocean and trying to find a shark.
But all experts agree the search needs to continue. After all, this is the search for one of humanity's big three philosophical questions. Is there a God? Is there life after death? And are we alone?
I'm not all that confident that any of those questions are going to be answered anytime soon. But if one of them was going to be answered, it's probably that third question, are we alone?
It is a fundamental question. We've been looking up at the sky and imagining something else since we've been able to look up at the sky and realize we were different than the environment. That was always where we looked for our gods and our mysteries and our stories. Maybe there was a reason for that, you know?
Pretty lonely if we are alone. Despite the promise of greater transparency, the US government hasn't announced if there'll be more public hearings into what it knows about UFOs.